So the Packers just came in and used their first pick of the 6th round, which they have 2 picks in the 6th round. They used their first pick on defensive tackle Karl Brooks from Bowling Green. And one thing that's very interesting about him, I was looking up his stats and his grades for PFF. And PFF had him graded as the best edge rusher in all of college football last year. The number 1 graded edge rusher out of 862 edge rushers with a 93 overall grade, which is wild. He was drafted in the 6th round. Why did he fall so far? Maybe it's because he plays in a weaker conference at Bowling Green. But still, it seems like this is pretty solid value considering how productive he was. He started 5 years at Bowling Green. PFF had him ranked as the 99th overall player, which would have put him in the top 3 rounds according to PFF. So that's pretty interesting, first off. And if we look at now what the Packers have done in this draft, they've really started to solidify this defensive line. Round 1, Lucas Van Ness, a guy who can rush the passer on the edge, but also can play inside. And then coming in round 4 earlier today, and drafting edge rusher Colby Wooden from Auburn, who can also play inside as well. And now in round 6, using their 3rd pick of the draft, or the 3rd pick on a defensive player or a defensive lineman in Karl Brooks from Bowling Green. So really solidifying this unit for the Packers and building up depth where we lost some guys this past offseason in Dean Lowry and Jaron Reed. If we take a look here at his measurables, this is from Zach Cruz. He says, this surprise, not an elite athlete, 46.5 tackles for loss, 27.5 sacks, 6 forced fumbles at Bowling Green, led Bowling Green in sacks for 5 straight seasons, 2-time captain. Like Colby Wooden, Brooks played all over the front. So he has a 5.87 RES, which is pretty low in comparison to some of these other elite athletes the Packers have drafted. But he is still a pretty big guy and pretty explosive if you watch some of his highlights. 6'3", 303 pounds, 5.08 40. So not crazy fast, but not super slow either. And I want to take a look here at his scouting report from Dan Brugler of The Athletic from his draft guide. He says this: a 5-year starter at Bowling Green, Brooks was primarily a defensive end and former defensive coordinator Eric Lewis's 3-4 base, lining up outside as a 7 technique, head up over the tackle, or inside as a 3 technique. Very few college players can say they led their team in sacks 5 straight seasons, but Brooks is one of them, including a prolific senior campaign as one of only 6 FBS players to finish with 18-plus tackles for loss and 10-plus sacks. With his initial quickness and effort, Brooks should be Bowling Green's first defensive draft pick since 2013. His hands are active, but not always efficient, and his sawed-off frame makes it difficult for him to control blockers or stay square. Brooks has a unique package of tools, which creates questions about his ideal position fit, but he has the light feet and urgent hands to be a gap disruptor. He projects best as a 3 technique who can be flexed up/down the line. So not bad for a 6th-round draft pick who was very productive in his 5 seasons at Bowling Green. And so this is really shaping up to be a very nice draft for the Packers, really focusing on getting weapons for Jordan Love and then really building up this Packers defensive line. We haven't drafted a safety, and I think at this point, there's really no use. We already have tons of depth at safety. So I assume maybe the Packers come in, and because they weren't able to get a safety higher in this draft, they bring Adrian Amos back on a deal, which I think would be a smart move, or they find another free agent who could potentially come in here and play some snaps. But I do think when you look at the Packers safety room, with Darnell Savage there, he's been average the past couple seasons, but Rudy Ford played really good in his short period of time there. So that could be enough for the Packers this next season, but I really do like this 6th-round pick, getting a guy who seems to have some pretty high potential for the 6th round. But if you would like to stay up to date with the rest of the Packers draft picks for tonight, feel free to subscribe to the channel down below. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.